And now, a passage from Salt Lake City, Past and Present. Founding and Developments of Salt Lake City, the metropolis of our Intermountain Empire. It is not the object of this book to present a history of this city or state in detail, which in numerous editions has already been published and given to the world, but to present to those interested a brief review of the story of this community, to whose people honor and credit must be given for the toil, energy, and enterprise displayed in changing a barren and unbroken wilderness, believed then to be unfit for habitation by civilized man, into a place which today represents in rich measure the fruits of the unceasing labor and hardships endured by the pioneers of this intermountain state and the works of those of later years. About 60 years ago, standing on the edge of the Mississippi River, then the border of the civilized part of our country, was a company of men, women, and children bent on a journey toward the western part of the continent. Without inducements, without advice or encouragement from friend or foe, and without knowledge of their final stopping point or destination, this company, numbering about 1,000 families in February 1846, broke camp and prepared to cross the Mississippi River and to traverse the thousands of miles of barren and unsettled prairie of this western country. They were scantily provided with clothing and provisions for undertaking such an unprecedented journey, which must result in untold suffering to all and death to some, and which was the only result looked for by a disinterested world. Within the bosoms of those brave and honored pilgrims, whose journey was toward the setting sun, rested no discouragement, no retreat. Forced to seek a place of refuge like the pilgrims of Plymouth Rock, they showed no sign of weakness in their hopes, reliance, and trust, these being as firm as the rocks created and set in place by that power to whom only they looked for succor in the hour of distress and oppression. Under the leadership of Brigham Young, who, like Moses of old, led his faithful followers from the land of Egypt into the wilderness, were shown the qualities to which the people looked for guidance, counsel, and advice. No pen can picture the real experiences connected with the migration of this people, who were driven from the civilized parts of their own country into a land where only the footprints of the red man and the beasts of the desert could be found. Regarding the events connected with the immortal episode of their journey, which would in itself furnish material for a large volume of history of the Mormons, we can only, for lack of space in this book, briefly refer to them. The constant exposure to which they were subjected by the inclemency of the weather, aside from the danger from Indians and beasts that roamed over the prairies, can only be appreciated by those who have made such a journey. Let us pass over their travels, which have taken a period of 17 months, and meet them again in July 1847, when they came through Emigration Canyon and had their first view of Salt Lake Valley. Their leader, from his sickbed, overlooked the valley and exclaimed to his people, "This is the place." This, to them, meant, "This is our home for the future." They descended from the foothills of the mountains into the valley, where they pitched their tents, and in prayer to God gave thanks and invoked his blessings. Wherever their feet went or their eyes looked, a barren and unproductive desert met their view. It was regarding this country that the offer of $1,000 for 1 bushel of wheat that could be raised here was made. This offer, made by James Bridger, whom Brigham and the Pioneer Company met a short distance west of the South Pass, not far from Fort Bridger. The story has often been told, but it is true and as apt for purposes of illustration now as at any other time. The Pioneers' New Home. In order to show the reader how the pioneers viewed their situation and their future hope regarding the Zion they had found, the following extracts from the journal of Apostle Wilford Woodruff are here given. July 24th. This is one of the most important days of my life, and in the history of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. After traveling 6 miles through a deep ravine ending with the canyon, we came in full view of the valley of the Great Salt Lake, the land of promise, held in reserve by God as a resting place for his saints. We gazed in wonder and admiration upon the vast valley before us, with the waters of the great lake glistening in the sun. mountains towering to the skies and streams of pure water running through the beautiful valley. It was the grandest view we had ever seen till this moment. Pleasant thoughts ran through our minds at the prospect that, not many years hence, the house of God would be established in the mountains and exalted above the hills, while the valleys would be converted into orchards, vineyards, and fruitful fields, cities erected to the name of the Lord, and the standard of Zion unfurled for the gathering of the nations. President Young expressed his entire satisfaction at the appearance of the valley as a resting place for the saints, and felt amply repaid for his journey. While lying upon his bed in my carriage, gazing upon the scene before us, many things of the future concerning the valley were shown to him in vision. Progress of the colony. In the history of Salt Lake City will be found the following interesting sketch regarding the progress of the colony. January 1st, 1848. The opening of the year found us and the community generally in good, comfortable temporary log or adobe cabins, which were built in a way to enclose the square commenced by the pioneers and a portion of 2 other blocks of the city plat. We had to struggle against great difficulties in trying to mature a first crop. We had not only the difficulties and inexperience incidental to an unknown and untried climate, but also swarms of insects equal to the locusts of Egypt, and also a terrible drought, while we were entirely inexperienced in the art of irrigation. Still we struggled on, trusting in God. In 1849 the following facts are given in the first general epistle sent out from the Mormon presidency. On our arrival in this valley we found the brethren had erected 4 forts, composed mostly of houses, including an area of about 47 acres and numbering about 5,000 souls, including our camp. The brethren had succeeded in sowing and planting an extensive variety of seeds at all seasons, from January to July, on a farm about 12 miles in length and from 1 to 6 in width, including the city plat. Most of their early crops were destroyed in the month of May by crickets and frost, which continued occasionally until June, while the latter harvest was injured by drought and frost, which commenced its injuries about the 10th of October and by the outbreaking of herds of cattle. The brethren were not sufficiently numerous to fight the crickets, irrigate the crops, and fence the farm of their extensive planting. Consequently, they suffered heavy losses, though the experiment of last year is sufficient to prove that valuable crops may be raised in this valley by an attentive and judicious management. The winter of 1847-48 was very mild, grass abundant, flocks and herds thriving thereon, and the earth tillable most of the time during each month. But the winter of 1848-49 has been very different, more like a severe New England winter. Excessive cold commenced on the 1st of December and continued until the latter part of February. Snowstorms were frequent, and though there were several thaws, the earth was not without snow during that period, varying from 1 to 3 feet in depth, both in time and places. The coldest day of the past winter was the 5th of February, the mercury falling 33 below freezing point, and the warmest day was Sunday, the 25th of February, mercury rising to 21 degrees above freezing point, Fahrenheit. Violent and contrary winds have been frequent. The snow on the surrounding mountains has been much deeper, which has made the wood very difficult of access, while the cattle have become so poor through fasting and scanty fare that it has been difficult to draw the necessary fuel, and many have had to suffer more or less from the want thereof. The winter commenced at an unusual and unexpected moment, and found many of the brethren without houses or fuel, and although there has been considerable suffering, there has been no death by the frost. 3 attempts have been made by the brethren with pack animals or snowshoes to visit Fort Bridger since the snow fell, but have failed. Yet it is expected that Compton will be able to take the mail east soon after April conference. In the former part of February, the bishops took an inventory of the breadstuff in the valley, when it was reported that there was little more than 3/4 of a pound per day for each soul, until the 5th of July. And considerable was known to exist, which was not reported. As a natural consequence, some were nearly destitute, while others had abundance. The common price of corn since harvest has been $2. Some have sold for $3. At present, there is none in the market at any price. Wheat has ranged from $4 to $5 and potatoes from $6 to $20 per bushel, and though not to be bought at present, it is expected that there will be a good supply for seed by another year. Our public works are prosperous, consisting of a council house 45 feet square, 2 stories, builded by tithing. Also, a bridge across the western Jordan at an expense of $700, and 6 or 7 bridges across minor streams to be paid by a 1% property tax. Also, a bathhouse at the Warm Springs. A field of about 8,000 acres has been surveyed south and bordering on the city, and plotted in 5 and 10 acre lots, and a church farm of about 800 acres. The 5 and 10 acre lots were distributed to the brethren by casting lots, and every man is to help build a pole, ditch, or stone fence, as shall be most convenient around the whole field, in proportion to the land he draws. Also, a canal on the east side for the purpose of irrigation. There are 3 grist mills and 5 or 6 sawmills in operation, and several more in contemplation. The location of a tannery and foundry are contemplated as soon as the snows leave the mountains. The forts are rapidly breaking up by the removal of the houses onto the city lots, and the city is already assuming the appearance of years. For any ordinary country, such is the industry and perseverance of the saints.